Welcome back to Microsoft Virtual Academy. Do you know what I mean? Means to hack Jumpstart. My name is Steven. This is Helen.
Hey guys.
And so last time we left off, we had created a AngularJS front end for Chirp, our Twitter clone. And the last module, I walked through Node.js and Express on how to create those APIs and get those things worked out for mimicking how we would make posts, and we actually did implement the authentication. So this module is all about the M of Beanstalk, which is MongoDB. So MongoDB is our data store that we're going to use. So if you remember the last module, we actually went ahead and used an in-memory store, and that's just a temporary solution. So what we're going to do is actually swap that out with MongoDB. So for this module, we're going to talk about intro document-oriented databases, just really a quick overview of that, what MongoDB is, how to use MongoDB from Node.js, which will flow right into how we can implement those route handlers for the post APIs to manipulate individual posts. Okay. So first of all, so document-oriented databases literally look like JSON objects. This might be kind of similar to if you would expect rows or columns in a traditional table or tabular data store and SQL databases. Instead, MongoDB just has documents. So here's the documents that we'll actually be using for this actual application for Chirp. So we'll have user documents, we'll have post documents. User documents represent a user, and of course, post documents represent a cheap. And we'll use these as our structures in our data store. Now, we do have a full Microsoft Virtual Academy on document-oriented databases that you can go ahead and take a look at if you'd like to get more detailed information. This module will more so talk about how to quickly use MongoDB to integrate it to our application to get things going very quickly. So that's our document-oriented database, like 100-mile-per-hour overview. That was very fast. There's a lot more to it, but. And now, so MongoDB is a popular open source implementation of a document-oriented database. It's fully managed on Azure via MongoLab, which is a third-party provider, which is just an add-on in your Azure portal, which is really neat. That way you don't have to worry about like having to update MongoDB or any type of patches. It'll just kind of come down for you. And the driver is basically in most languages that people code in, there's a driver for it. There's a C++ driver, a Node.js driver, there's a Python driver, a C# driver. Pretty much every language I could think of has a driver for MongoDB.
Yeah, and the great thing about the MongoLab instance for on Azure is that you can actually use a small one for completely free, right?
Yeah, so on Azure, you could actually spin up a MongoLab instance. And we'll do that on the last module of the day when we tie everything up and launch it to the cloud. And you could have a free instance that actually doesn't cost you anything. So with that, with a free website, you could get up and running for nothing on Azure, which is pretty nice. Okay, so MongoDB comes with a few binaries that you should be aware of when you install. It's the MongoDB, the database process, Mongo, the MongoDB CLI, which is really just a way for us to manage our database, and Mongo import, which is a data import utility. We only use the first two ones for this lab, but if you're interested in how to use like more of those Mongo utilities, go ahead and take a look at our on-demand MongoDB Jumpstart that we filmed in last January, and I believe went live for on-demand in last month. Okay. So we talked about MongoDB document-oriented databases. So now how do we use MongoDB from Node.js to, because we need to do that if we're going to implement those route handlers. So the first thing we're going to do is, so you can either decide to use the ODM, which is Object Data Mapper, or we can just use MongoDB driver by itself. The Object Data Mapper is pretty nice because it wraps up MongoDB and it actually enforces schemas. You might be familiar with SQL. If you are, SQL kind of naturally enforces a schema. MongoDB does not, which is one of the great things about it, but it's also a double-edged sword because if you're not actually enforcing any type of schemas, things can go crazy because you could just put whatever, and documents don't necessarily have to look like each other. It's just by convention you keep those. So Mongoose actually enforces those conventions for you, and you'll see what I mean in a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just do an npm install mongoose, and we'll save that to our package.json, and that will allow us to go ahead and start using MongoDB. So I'll jump into my command line and actually go ahead and do that. So I already have our module4 start directory open in our GitHub repository. So I'll do npm install mongoose. So mongoose has a dependency on a MongoDB library. So if you see here, so we don't actually need to download the driver because mongoose just uses the driver under it. So that's actually pretty nice. Okay, so we've installed it and we're kind of ready to go. If we want to go ahead and require it, we can go ahead and put it in our app.js, which is var mongoose equals require mongoose, and we'll connect to MongoDB. Let me make sure I'm following my slides here. Yeah, so with the MongoDB driver, we don't really need to talk about too much. You can use it directly, but we'll just use the driver through Mongoose, and it allows us to create, modify, and delete, insert, CRUD operations on records. So to connect to MongoDB, we'll just connect to a local MongoDB server, which will be, what is it? MongoDB localhost.
I think you'll need to do mongoose.connect to connect.
Connect, yeah. There we go. MongoDB. What's the port number, Helen? It's 27102? The default port number?
Something like that, yeah.
I'll check in a second. And then we'll pick the name of the database we're going to use. So we'll call it chirp test. Okay, so this connects us to our MongoDB database, which will be running locally. Now, the thing you might ask is, hey, how do I, get MongoDB running? So to do that, after you install MongoDB, depending on where you installed it, it's actually set up on my path variable. So wherever you installed it, just go MongoD. And if you start it for the first time, it will complain about the data directory. So you might have to place the data directory where it asks for. You can also just do MongoD and do db path to data directory, and which is just where MongoDB will store its on this data. But if I have everything set up, I can just do MongoD. Let's see. Oh, I think another database is actually running already. Yeah, this crazy looking screen. There we go. Okay, so it says, hey, waiting for connections on port 27017, which is the default MongoDB port. So 27017. Thank you. Okay, so now we've connected to, this will connect us to our MongoDB server. So now we're kind of set up to use MongoDB with Node. And what we'll do with the Mongoose ODM is that it'll enforce schemas around our MongoDB database using schemas, and then the schemas will be able to use models. And the way it works is that MongoDB has collections. Documents go into collections, and collections go into databases. Databases live on servers. And so for every model or schema, there's a one-to-one relationship between a model and a collection. So if I have a post model, I'll have a post plural collection. If I have a user model, I'll have a users collection. So that's kind of how that works. So let's go ahead and talk about how we can implement the route handler with handlers with Node.js and MongoDB. So if you remember from the previous lab, we actually just did a quick to-do implementation. We never actually implemented everything. Now we're actually going to get the user documents for GET request and create a user document for POST request. So really, it just means, hey, if we want to create the CRUD operations on those APIs that we didn't implement before. So we got the authentication working, but now we need to do the implementation. So we'll go ahead and get started. So let me minimize this out. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually jump into our authenticate JS here. Let me pull up my GitHub repository for it so I could follow my README. So if we go to chirp, module 4. So we already started MongoDB. and we already installed Mongoose. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create our models JS, and we're going to use models JS to create our schemas. So I'm going to create a new folder here. We'll call it models. And say we create a new file here. We'll call it models.js. Now you don't have to follow this convention. You could make a model folder or model file for each type of model you want to hold. Because we only have two, I'm just going to throw them in the same one. So first we'll do mongoose equals require mongoose here. Okay. Oh. Okay. Afterwards we'll go. So we got our mongoose require module in. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a schema here. So mongoose schema. I'm being yelled at for typing too loud, so I'm gonna type a little bit quieter for you guys. Sorry about that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a schema, and the schema will have a username and password, and I guess it created that too. So what we'll do is, let me go back. And we'll call this, I'm actually going to copy and paste the code because I don't actually memorized the Mongoose schema stuff. Okay. So we're going to create a user schema, and the user schema will be have a username, password. And the thing is, when we create a schema, we define what the types are for each field. And we have created that, which is a of type date. And when we create a new one, the default value will be now, unless specified by the thing that saves the model. We're also going to have one more model, which is called the post schema, which will be a new mongoose schema. And the username will be, nope, not schema, post schema, so it'll be text, and it'll be type string. We'll also have created by, Helen, what is it going to be? Is it going to be type string or?
Yeah, could you make it a type string?
Okay. So it'll be created by, and it'll be a string that will point to the user ID that created it, and we'll have created at. Actually, I don't think I need created at. I just think I need. Is that all you need, Helen?
Well, the created at would have a timestamp for the post, so we do want that.
Okay. There we go. Boom. Okay, so now we have our schemas. Now Mongoose wants us to create, the final thing to do when we're using Mongoose is just to synthesize our models. And so it's really easy to synthesize a model. All we have to do is do mongoose model post mongoose model user, and that'll allow us to just to export those modules into Mongoose so that they could be used by anybody using the Mongoose module in the application. So mongoose user, and it'll be .model. Yeah. Right. And we'll do the user schema, which means I'm declaring a model. So I'll put that. Declare a model called user, which has schema user schema. So now remember, MongoDB under the covers really has no concept of a schema. It really is schemaless. So you can do whatever you want, which is great because you can change things in the future. But it's also good practice to kind of have some sanity onto what that data object's going to look like so that you have some consistency through your database. If you need to add something or remove something, it's pretty flexible, but it allows you to actually declaratively describe what things look like.
And once you're done with that, can you actually do me one more favor? I'm the person that's going to consume a lot of these. So I do want what we're doing to align. Could you use username instead of created by for the user schema?
Yep.
Thank you.
You got it. There you go. So text username, and we'll do our post model and our post schema. And same thing here. It'll be a model called user, which has schema, user schema, same thing, model called post, called using post schema. Okay, so we've created that. we can require that in. So I'll do that. We could do it right after Mongoose Connect. We could do require. And we don't really need to hold on to the models module. We don't really need to, but we can if we wanted to. So we'll do models.js. Okay. Now this require will actually start to execute whatever's in models.js. I don't think we actually export anything, so it'll just be within the Mongoose library itself. Okay. And so now we've actually created our basic connection to MongoDB with the schemas that we want to do. Now, the exciting part really is adding the users, getting the users out of like the in-memory nonsense that we're doing with the users, as well as the post as well. So the first thing we'll do is we'll implement the users in MongoDB because we need users to actually create posts. So it makes sense to start there. So to do that, if you remember that Passport init had this pesky little users data store, so we'll get rid of that and we'll actually start to use MongoDB instead. So we'll do mongoose equals require mongoose, and then we'll say users equals mongoose.model. Is that right?
Where are you doing that?
When I grab the models, let me see. Should be. I think so. Yeah. Mongoose model. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm saying. If we catch you here earlier, then I don't have stuff blowing up in my face later. Post. Okay. So all this, by the way, if you just look at the Mongoose documentation, you just do a quick search. It's really easy. You'll find it's all documented. So because we required and initialized Mongoose before we actually loaded this, which let me double check that we did. If not, things will kind of go haywire. So we have Mongoose require. So what we should actually do is we should require it after we do Passport init, which would make sense to do it here. Before it. So do it right before. So actually it doesn't matter. We could do it here. We could do it on the top.
Yeah, I think you're okay wherever.
Yeah, I'm okay whatever. As long as it's not after Passport init, because then Passport wouldn't have any type of users declared otherwise. Okay, so we've created that. And so now that we have our users and we have our posts, we can actually start manipulating some stuff. So if we want to actually create a...
Are you looking for the authenticate?
No, I'm not looking for anything. I'm good. So sign up here. So instead now, wherever we see users bracket, that was our old database, our in-memory stuff, and now we're going to actually use it for use MongoDB. So we'll do users, or user. I really should call it users. Yeah, we'll call it users. Okay. It might be different in the end module. I forgot what we called it on our final version. But we'll say users.find1. So find1 is a method, which is just a convenience method. It's actually on the raw MongoDB library as well. And really it's a convenience to find a document which matches, the first one that matches the query. And the queries in MongoDB are described by query objects and not by actual queries. Like SQL queries, it's just an object, which is a query object, and that's just what it is. And it describes the type of object we're looking for. So in this case, we're looking for an object, a user object with username equal to the username that we're passed in by Passport. Okay? And what it'll do is will give us a callback. It'll call callback, and we'll give it to it. The first argument, remember in a callback in Node.js, is usually an error. And then afterwards, it's actually the document. So I will call it the user object. Okay? And there we go. Beautiful. So now, if we got an error, we can say, so either way, we need to call this callback to tell the function that we're done. So we'll do return done, and we'll say db error, and we can pass this to error. And we could say, and we could actually just pass it directly. And otherwise, we'll just do false because we actually did not find the sign-up request failed because there's something off the database. Otherwise, if user, so if we did find a user, that means that we have already signed this user up, meaning that this sign-up request should fail because this username is already taken. Okay. Cool. So now that the username is already taken, it's false. We've hit those two possibilities. So user already exists with username. It's the same leg of code, so we can delete that. And finally, we want to store the user instead of in memory in the database. So what we'll do is we'll say var user equals let's see, username, and the same thing before is what we did. We just create the hash with the password. We'll just do the same thing here. Get rid of that. There we go. And finally, we'll do users dot. Can I just do a save on that object, or do I need to?
You can do a save. Yeah, you can do a save on. Well, you can do a save on not users, but your actual user. So
yeah.
the new user that you created.
The user I created, right?
Yep.
User.save.
But but you need to probably make your user a new user.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, got it. That's why I was like, this is weird. Yeah, no, I remember now. New, and so user is actually a constructor. So, had some sublime craziness going on there. Let me find myself again. There we go. And I think I declared it as users, which is kind of
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny looking, right? And let me double check. I have to always fact check myself. New user. Cool. Yeah, so in the example in README, you'll just see user, but in our case, we'll just do that. And then we'll just call it new user, and then we'll just add those fields as necessary. So instead of doing that, we'll just do users. And although it looks funny, this is just a user model, and we're making a user object. Maybe I should just change it back to user. I think I'm going to do that.
You did it for a reason before, right?
I know, I did it for a reason before. I don't want to confuse everybody, so we'll just do post. User and post. Okay. And then we'll go back to sign up, and instead of users, we'll do user.findOne and equals new user. And then finally, user.username will equal username. User.password will equal the create hash password, and then afterwards we have everything in a MongoDB savable or Mongoose savable object, and then all we have to do is just call save on it. Now we don't have to listen to the callback, but we should. So, does it tell me the count, or does it just return me the user back? I forgot.
I don't think it returns.
Anything?
I believe it actually returns you the entire user.
That's what I thought. Okay. So if error, return done with error false. Otherwise, console log successfully signed up user username. Cool. And then return done. Null, which means we don't have an error, and we'll pass back the user, which is user.
So do you want to do user.username for successfully signed up user?
I don't think so. I think we pass the whole user, and then afterwards we serialize the usernames for serializing in and out of the session. So I think that should be right.
Okay.
Okay. So now we created a sign up API, and so now we got to make the login API. Again, we can't use the user's in-memory thing, so I actually should cut this out. Yeah, see, we passed user username, remember before, which is the whole object. And kill this. All right, perfect. So now we have are done, and now we'll just do the login really quick. So the same idea here. First, we check to see if the user exists. If the user already exists, or actually this should be if not user found. But if the user doesn't exist, false. If the password is not valid, false, then you shouldn't be able to log in. Otherwise, oh, and this one's if it is valid. But if the password is valid, then we'll check, and if it is valid, we'll just go ahead and return. So we'll follow the same logic here, except we'll use the user, the MongoDB object instead. So first thing we'll do is user.find1, and we're going to use our user name as the search for the query. And so these queries are really interesting because they're basically JSON objects, which is really neat. Error, which is an error from MongoDB. Otherwise, we have a user that we should get back, so just one. And so now what we basically need to do is check if we got an error. If we got an error from MongoDB, then return the done callback with just, let me make this a little bigger for you guys, with the error of the database and false, which just means that we're not going to log in. Otherwise, if there is no user object that came back, so if this is null, that means that there is no user with this username. So if there is no user with this username, that means that you shouldn't be able to log in. So you should also return done, error, not error, but username not found. Okay. And then we'll do false again. You should be able to log in. Finally, we have to check to see if the password's correct. There's a lot of cases here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If the password is not correct, password is not true, and what we have to do is we have to pass the user object, which we got at this point, and the password that is attempted to be used for this user. If that password is not valid, then wrong password will return done.
Incorrect password.
Incorrect password, thank you. And false. All right, I feel really negative because these are all the reasons why you shouldn't be able to log in, right?
I mean, that's what makes this semi-secure as an application. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's the most secure, but
yeah,
it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's good enough. All right, so finally, we need to do let the user actually log in. And so to do that, we'll just simply do return done with null, which means, hey, everything's A-OK, and the actual user object. And that's about it. So now we'll delete the in-memory implementation. So now we should be able to log in, and we should be able to sign up. And finally, what we need to do is we need to serialize and deserialize the user. To do that, again, you could see that we have the passport serialized user, which remember which will provide us with the user object and wants us to provide a key for that user. So in our case, we'll just do _ID. I know that looks like magic. What happens is MongoDB gives us an ID already on every object, which it generates for us, which we know to be unique. So because of that, we might as well use that for the serialization, because we know with high certainty that that is going to be a unique ID. And what we'll do is we'll return user._ID. And we should put a return before every callback, just in case. It's good practice. And then on the deserialized user, we need to find the user based on the user ID given. So what we can do is we could just do user.find by ID. Oh, do we just pass the ID to it? I forgot.
You pass you pass just the ID.
Okay. So we'll
in this case, it's the username, since that's what you're... Oh, yeah.
ID.
You just did ID.
Like magic. Okay, so now we have the ID that this ID is gonna come back to us because we provided the ID on the serialized part of this. So our ID comes back to us, which is our MongoDB ID, and what we can do is we just do function, again, for error, and the user, which is the user document coming from MongoDB, and we're going to do a return. Well, if there's an error, you're just going to return the done handler with a null, and we'll also, actually not null, sorry, error, to say, hey, we got an error and false. Otherwise, return user. Well, also, just in case, I'm not sure if the mongoose returns a null, an error if they can't find it, but we'll say if not user, return done, user not found, false. Finally, otherwise we will do return done user. We'll say true, and we got to return the user. Cool. And boom. Okay, so now we found the user. Provide it back to passport. So now everything's actually really asynchronous because we have to actually go off to the server and fetch that data and bring it down. As before, it was in memory, so there was no asynchronousness because it was right in the application. Okay, so now all this is implemented. We should be able to log in, log out, similarly like we did before, but those users will persist. So let's test it out. If we go over to our advanced REST client, I'm trying to see if I have a break slide. No, okay, cool. This is all the same thing. All right, so let me go to auth, and I probably should run the application. Let's see if it actually works. So npm start. I can't find module debug. Did I do a npm install here? I did. Sometimes I see that, and I thought that was in the package JSON, or it came with Express. Okay. Debug. So I'm installing the debug module. Ah, okay. No, this isn't installed because all that stuff comes in the Express package JSON. Okay. There we go. So let's give this a shot. We'll do localhost auth sign up. So if all goes well, we should see a new user in the database. And everything always works the first time. Let's see here. We should be connected to the local database. Did we actually ever connect? Oh, I don't think we ever connected. Yeah, I don't think we did. Let me double check our MongoDB connection, localhost 27017. The port's listed at 27017. Fire Mongoose. Okay, let me look at my finish really quick. Let's look at Notepad. Yeah, oh, okay. It actually doesn't even specify the port, so I think by using the default, but it should, that shouldn't really matter though. We could try it anyways. Okay. Is the app running?
Why don't you check if it's connecting to the server, to the MongoDB server now?
Yeah, see, I'm not seeing any connections. Huh. What is going on here? Like always, worst case is fall back onto the cloud version, or the cloud MongoDB server, but we should be able to connect to it. And
it says, oh, someone said you missed the call to done one site, but okay, no, that's not.
That shouldn't matter.
Yeah, that's not our current issue, but we will go and fix that.
Yeah, but look.
Yeah, you're connecting to the MongoDB server.
Yeah. Unless I'm not in the right directory. Module 4 start app.js. Module 4 start.
Yeah.
App.js, yeah. And we don't see a connection when we start, which I would have failed. I would expect to fail if we didn't find a connection. Let me double check here. Okay. So what we can do is we can, oh. Whoa, that was weird, right?
Yeah.
It says, oh, all these connections are now open.
Well.
Yeah, and now it can't connect. That's weird. That might be a little Windows thing. But let's try it again. MongoD. Waiting for connections. It might be like I paused it on the command line. Okay, connection accepted now. All right, that works. And then now the done handler, someone mentioned it was a done handler error, but I don't think that's an issue. Let me see. If we go back, our passport init, return done, and we're trying to do sign up, right?
Yes.
So find one username, fair. User name. No, user save should work too.
Yeah.
I might have to Martha Stewart it. Let's see. I'm gonna do one debug line. If I could see this debug line, then we'll do that. If not, we'll fall back to the pre-raid version. We'll see what we did wrong. Okay. Quickly run. Let's see. Call the API one more time. Yeah, I don't have an output from it. Which it's probably because maybe something's not registered or something. I'm not exactly sure. Which is fine. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll look at this really quick. Open folder. Okay. Passport init. So this is basically the same thing. We're taking the user, we're going to save it with the same implementation. We're going to save the user, and we'll see if the registration was successful. So just a copy and paste. It should be the same compatibility. Oh, you know what? Did I do? Yeah, no, we did the same thing. So that should still work. Let's try it again. Here we go. Oh, this is weird. It's not even responding.
Huh.
I will check the app.js really quick. Authenticate. Authenticate. Well, that doesn't make much sense to me. I'm going to try it one more time, and I'm going to do the, I'm just going to go to the finish. Okay, and do npm install. Install our modules. Quick, come on. There we go. npm start. There we go. Cool. All right, so we got some response. It's kind of strange that that I couldn't even do a sign up though, which is really weird. Okay, so when we do a sign up, we should get the so we're getting a what you call an invalid user name or error, which is probably because we have a database error. So this is running. Oh, user already exists, that's that word. Okay, that's fine. So because the user already existed, so I could just pick a new new name. So instead of that, we'll just pick sword 81172. Huh, and it's not responding now. If the we're saving the user here. But everybody loves watching me sweat. Let me see here. So we did the sign up, and it said, hey, user already exists. So that already means that we got a user when we did the find one. So otherwise, if there's no user, we should create the user, username, password, create the hash. We save the user, and it should just tell us either we're not saving it. So we can do just a bit of debugging here and say, hey, if it already exists, which already hit that path. Otherwise, should creating a new user, and should create the new user here. User, and we'll call it username. Cool. And so now this should tell us whether or not we're creating a new user or not. We could tell if we actually hit an error or not, saving the new user object. Restart the server. Oh, that's really strange too. You see that? Registration successful.
Yeah.
These PowerShell windows are kind of weird because.
Well, if the registration is successful, what is the response that you're getting?
Well, now I got the response, and it was, hey, success. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. Sometimes the PowerShell windows, like, I think when I do this, actually, I think this is the issue. It pauses it. I'm not sure. Okay. So I can do another user. I'll do sedward1722, and let's see if I got a response here. That's really crazy. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh,
It's
yeah.
redirecting you to success.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
great.
Okay, so we got through it too, so we're fine. So now, what we can do is, if you want to look at the actual database and see the users in it, we can do another PowerShell. We could just go to Mongo, and we could do something very quick. We could look at the actual database. Yeah, see that? Like,
Yeah. So strange.
yeah, I don't know. I'm just not going to touch this window. It keeps freezing up my, and that could be doing it to the server too. I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so connecting the test, we can show DBs, and we can see all the databases we want. Remember we made a test chirp database, which is here. So we'll do use test chirp. Okay, now I can do show collections, and we'll see that we have a users collection, which is what we created before, which is based on users model. And we'll just do, let's see, db.users.find. And this will show us all the users that we've created. We could pick like the first one, and we could see that this is in the database, username 172, password, whatever is the hash. Cool. So we're saving our users now. I'm going to copy this over to our, since my hand coding seemed like it failed. I'm not too sure if it failed or if that was the MongoDB server, but let's quickly go ahead and do the API authentication. So now that we have the post APIs, so we've implemented all the API, the authentication APIs with the MongoDB database, saving users, pulling them out, etc. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and implement the post APIs to manipulate the post objects. We already have the authentication of those APIs already from the last module. So now all we're going to do is we're just going to put the MongoDB-ness in there, MongoDB-ize it, and then we should be good to go. So the first thing we'll do is, and this is the start. So remember that we did the is authentication, authenticated. We protected certain APIs that we needed to. And now we're actually going to fill out these to-dos. So what we're going to do first is we need to grab the mongoose module. Mongoose equals require mongoose. Okay. Okay. And then var post equals, which is our post model. And we'll do mongoose.model post. Beautiful. Okay. So now, what we need to do is we need to grab we'll do the get because it's really easy. So we'll do the get, we'll say post.find and function error data. Okay, so what does this do? So we had find one and we also have find. Find optionally takes a query parameter. If you don't pass a query object to it, it's just going to return everything in that collection. And the actual data object's actually a cursor. So if you have a large amount of stuff, it'll just cursor through the database. And we could use that and return that right to our client. So to do that, we will do if error. We could just return like res.send. We can send a 500 error. Let's say message. DB error. Actually, we can just put we can just pass the raw error to it. You might not want to do that because it's leaking. You're leaking diagnostics information, but I'm just going to throw it in there for time's sake. We'll return. So we should always return when we call our callbacks. Otherwise, we'll return res. Is it JSON or send? I don't think it matters, right?
Send. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll send the data back down. So what this will do is we'll send actually a collection of posts that we have in our database, and that will allow Helen to actually consume that in AngularJS and show our cheats. Now we got to actually implement the thing that'll create a new post, which is the post endpoint, the post method, and the post endpoint. And what we'll do here is we'll do post, the same idea here, except it's not going to be a find. It's going to be a We just do an insert. I'm pretty sure we could do that too. I'm not sure if that was our final implementation though. Post insert. I'm gonna double check myself because I don't want to go off the paths here. Let's see. We've already serialized. We created all the authentication. We're going to do API post. And we're going to say, if we want to create a new post, we just, actually, yeah, this is for new post. So we create a new post, and I'll just copy and paste this because I am in a rush. So we only have 4 minutes left. All right, here. So now, instead of using the to-do or whatever we had, we're going to create a new post object. The post text is going to be the text and the request body. So it's going to do a post, and we're going to get the text out of the text body, and that's what we're going to shove into the MongoDB database. Afterwards, we're going to have the created by, which will actually, I think Helen wants me to change created by to username. And afterwards, we'll save it off into the database, and everything will be right with the world. So username here. Helen, are you calling the username on the request body?
I believe I am.
Okay. So this is coming right from Angular client, so that's why it's important.
Actually, no, it's created by. I'm
created
sorry.
by?
Yeah.
And do you want me to save it here as created by or as username?
You should. I think saving it as username. I don't know what I called it in mine, to be honest. But.
Excellent. Okay, cool. That's fine. And then, so now we've then created by with the text, and now we'll just return the post object. And so this is returning the post object that we've created. Doesn't really matter. The client can do whatever he wants with it. And the post in here will actually save this into the database. So we have that. And then finally, we need to do our particular post. So I don't think this will actually use this on our front-end client explicitly, but I believe Angular does look for these endpoints. So we should provide them. So in order to do that, it's really simple. For each one, we're going to use the ID. The ID is going to be the same ID that we use in MongoDB, and that'll just be what we have on. We'll use the MongoDB ID for the ID part of the URL. So we have this, and then we have get specified post. So this will just get a post for a specific ID. I want to replace it for this one here. We have our put route, which is what we had before, but instead we need to modify an existing post. So again, this is right through our README. The put's a little bit longer because what we need to do, we need to find the post that we want to actually modify, and then modify it itself. So if you look, we have find by ID first, which is the ID of what we want to look for. The error, we return an error if we don't have it or not. Again, it's username, not, you're doing created by, right?
Yes, in my request body, yes.
Okay, cool. And then the post text, and then what we'll do is we'll save that. If we don't find that username, then obviously we can't actually update it, so that's why we return an error. So I have to do 2 actions here for the put, which is why it's a little bit bigger than the get. And then finally the delete, which is really just removing something from the database, which is just a dot remove function on the model. And there we go. So now all that's been implemented. So now our post API is allegedly completely implemented with MongoDB, and it'll actually allow us to get and put stuff in the database. Now let's go ahead and give it a try and put my money where my mouth is and actually get everything working here. So we're gonna run our server again. Okay. So, oh, this isn't our finish. Yeah, but it should be the same thing. And we'll go to the advanced REST client here, and we'll test. So we'll do a sign up, or maybe assign a login, because we have the same MongoDB database now. So everything is persistent. So we'll do auth login. Make sure MongoDB is running. Okay. Oh man. You know what we can do? I might just hit the live endpoint because I'm not sure what's happening on my machine with Mongo, but it just seems like it's hanging for some reason. So we'll hit the live Azure website. So we'll go HTTP chirp MVA, the Azure websites coconut. And we'll do auth. And I don't know, I'm just going to create a new user. So we'll do post, add a new value here. Username is equal to Steve. 88. We'll add a new username, password, which is password. We'll do post. Oh, yeah, post sign up, right?
Yeah, post sign up.
Oh, it's doing the same thing.
Huh.
That's really
It's
weird.
strange.
Because the live app actually works, right?
The live site definitely is working.
Okay, well, it's going to have to work at some point because you're going to integrate to it. Yeah, not sure why. It should just work. I think it's hanging on that connection, but it's weird that the live site does that. And I'm pretty sure you could just sign in.
Yeah,
So,
I just registered right now on the live site.
yeah, I don't know. It might be the advanced REST client. We'll figure it out during the break, though. It's not a big deal. So, anyways, so we've created we've MongoDB-ized our APIs by having our MongoDB instances actually create our users and create our posts, and we're able to return all those posts back down. And in the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to consume these APIs right from AngularJS. And what that'll do is it'll just create a quick little integration so we can actually do two-way binding on the front end, and that binding will actually integrate to the MongoDB database on the back end. So if you restart the server or if you do something else, it just kind of works. And all the cheats and all that will just be saved persistently between application restarts. Cool, so we'll see you back in a bit.
Yeah, see you back soon.